Don't you act like My Chemical Romance wouldn't have been singing Heaven Was Full, I'm Going Straight to Hell. That sounds like something they would write.
I really want to fight on that point she just made, and I can't. And God damn it. Emo Social Club, we are on TikTok. We are TikTokers now, I think. Now, we talk about emo music on our channel. As you can tell, here we are talking about emo music in all of our other videos. I saw this video on YouTube by Gabby Bell called The TikTokification of Emo Music. And I wanted to check it out. It's a little bit about like TX2, MGK, and sort of like how emo music became popular. I don't know Gabby Bell. I haven't watched a lot of her content, but I know she talks a lot about TikTokification of things and music and those sorts of things. So I was curious. I'm like, are you critiquing it? Is there an issue? Maybe we can learn something from it as TikTokers now.
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of discussion that has been going on in general about the TikTokification of like the alt music scene in general and of just any other subculture. So looking at it from an emo perspective and lens absolutely makes sense.
Let's find out a little bit more about the TikTokification of emo music. This is by Gabby Bell. Make sure to subscribe, follow her on YouTube.
Why is nobody talking about the resurgence of emo lately? If you're seeing this,
I'm gonna talk about it. I know I don't look like it, but I love pop punk and alternative music. And I posted shit like this.
I realize she's setting this up to say, I am one of you. And yes, you are 100%.
Yeah.
That's queen status. So respect to Gabby here.
I've met Weezer and my
Hey,
no, she's a queen.
That's such a hard flex.
Yep, queen shit.
When do we get to meet Weezer?
Seriously.
Avril Lavigne was my first concert when I was 8 years old, along with the Jonas Brothers opening for her, of course.
I've been saying it since day one. The Jonas Brothers used to be pop punk. Their first 3 albums.
I think you got to throw in when you explain this to people, like they toured with Avril. They opened for Avril.
Has nobody ever listened to It's About Time, self-titled Jonas Brothers, and then a little bit longer? Hello.
A big criticism of new age TikTok is how bad the lyrics are. This one has been going viral lately.
I hadn't even listened to the entirety of it. I just saw the first few seconds. I said, absolutely not.
Yeah, I watched it without audio. Just watch the captions.
Sheesh. The homie app. That's bad. I mean, the beat, the instrumentation, I do like that. But we can revisit the drawing board with lyrics.
I have a theory that a lot of this stuff is to be bad on purpose.
I can see it. Well, it's not supposed to be good because it's supposed to be like just instantaneous gratification and fame.
But like, you got to be good to get that.
Have you heard some of the artists that are out there nowadays, Brian?
This one? No, I know. I do think that a lot of bad shit gets put to the forefront because it's bad. And I don't necessarily love that. But a lot of these people think all press is good press. So making bad music, especially to start, like I made a bad song and that got really popular. Everything I made past that is going to be good songs. So it's like, oh, you don't remember the bad song, especially now that everything is singles. Like you can release a single and people can hate it and be like, that's fine. It doesn't matter.
A really wild comparison could be when Dua Lipa first came out and everyone recorded her performing at her first string of like shows she ever did. And she was terrible at dancing.
Yeah.
And everybody was bullying her about it, which is fair.
Yeah.
All of a sudden she saw it and then she came back and she was like, LOL, I'm great at dancing.
Yep.
Watch it. This could be the same thing, just obviously on a smaller level.
On a much smaller level.
Yeah.
This is cringe as hell. This is a certified cringe classic. It's joining this one for sure.
Should I just write the next emo anthem?
we are the princes and princesses of the glory days. We were raised.
Hello?
Why is Danny Gonzalez there? I love that. And that one has come up for me a bunch of times. And that one is just, what if I just did 30 Seconds to Mars, Kings and Queens, but I changed the lyrics to Princes and Princesses? It's like, no, there's a reason 30 Seconds to Mars did that because it made more sense and it's a huge song.
I never even saw that one.
That one's so bad.
I don't ever need to see it again, actually.
But that one at least didn't get, well, I think it is popular enough to where I saw it, right? But certainly the other one got way bigger because of how bad people thought it was. And that one obviously didn't get as far.
Right.
Anyway, shout out Danny Gonzalez for watching that and being in the video for some reason.
Then there's this one.
That one is objectively fucking terrible.
This dude literally said, let me think about what my first public speaking class was and let me take an attention getting sentence and
You're not
start
wrong.
with it.
Yeah, you're not
and
wrong.
then go, because then it draws people in. I also know a lot of people who know TX2 personally, and they're like, I don't like the music, but he is a very nice guy.
Sure.
So there's that. And he is sincere, at least, about his messaging, is what I have been told. It's there to capture another generation of kids that, I mean, probably people who are our age when we were listening to like Simple Plan and Good Charlotte were like,
Yes.
what is this?
Yeah.
What is this? Stop that. And now we're like, what is this? Stop that.
Stop that.
And then it'll continue again when they're older.
I think it's crazy as a man to admit that you're 5'4".
I also want to remind you that the pop punk we listened to like 10, 20 years ago are equally, if not more, cringe.
The audio isn't there, but don't worry about that. It's Teenagers by MCR. And we've said on record,
Yeah.
it's not great. In retrospect, maybe not the greatest as a song by MCR. Catchy, fun at a party if you're listening to it with other people.
It's easily digestible for people who don't traditionally listen to our type of music,
Sure.
which is why it also did really well on the radio charts.
Sure. While I am understanding of the lyric, and I think that yelling "teenagers scare the living shit out of me" is fun, it is basically it's a pretty boring lyric. Like after that, like it's a good lyric, and then it doesn't really follow up with much. And while Gerard was saying something there, trying to say something there, it could do with a little bit of nuance to it, I think, versus being so blatant and blunt. Looking back at it, not looking at it as it was written right now. So I think she's making a fair point that it's not like these songs are worse than the things we listened to 15, 20 years ago.
When we were listening to things, people above us in the generational wise were going to say like, stop that. That's cringe.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing, except we've devolved a little bit more lyrically in context where, I mean, I know Teenagers Scared Living Shit Out of Me isn't as revolutionary as we may think that it is.
No,
But compared to what we're hearing now,
maybe.
it's like I'm singing to you a random sentence I'm explaining to like my homie over here
Yeah.
instead of like trying to be edgy and make a profound statement.
Yes. I think there is a move in a lot of lyricism to be less metaphorical and more straightforward and without like any nuance, just letting people know exactly what you think. There is room for that. I also think there's room for being more metaphorical and creating more of a like world where anybody can kind of get whatever you want from the lyrics.
It always bothered me how they used the wrong could. They couldn't care less, not could care less. If they could care less, it wouldn't make any sense.
She just ruined my entire fucking life. She just ruined my whole goddamn life. I'm not going to be able to hear it without thinking that.
I don't listen to teenagers that much to have to give
We
that
hear
much
it enough
thought.
to where you're going to hear it and go, unrelenting banger. We understand. It's true. You're fine. It's an unrelenting banger. Disagree entirely.
Number one
Number one panic song of all time.
Yeah, we had a whole, that's also on record. We had a whole argument
Yep.
about it.
Number one panic song of all time. Don't give a shit.
All my surroundings.
Do not come for 21 Pilots.
Hey.
That 21 Pilots is entirely vibes based.
It's vibes based. It's emotional based.
I'm not denying that their lyrics can be a little bit. Tyler Joseph writes for Tyler Joseph almost directly. He is his main audience and he hopes other people understand what he's saying. Tyler Joseph is Tyler Joseph's audience.
Hey, Tyler Joseph, we understand what you're saying.
I'm try-
and that's
I'm- yeah.
what matters.
Lyrics that mean nothing. We were gifted with thought. You know what I'm saying? Taking my time on my ride. Keep going.
Is it time to work through this introspective?
I gotta add, Gabby, the use of papyrus font in all of these is, I know what you're doing. It pisses me off, but I appreciate it.
Don't ever look back.
I'll be honest. Chuck Yes Juliet's lyrics kind of hold up.
I mean, it is like, it was a little bit of a more of a oomph in that category, because I feel like you can say that about boys like girls.
Yep.
As well, because they all fell into that one category where arguably nowadays somebody would be like, they're one-hit wonders, but Boys Like Girls is not a one-hit wonder by any means if you listen to more of their music.
It was pop music.
Yeah.
And I do think that in general, when you're writing more pop music, your lyrics have to be more vague because they have to get a larger audience invested in it. And when you're more in the rock field, you're creating music that is more specific and you can tell a story more so much. Like, pop music is supposed to be for everybody. Rock music is not supposed to be for everybody. So when they're writing pop music, they're like, here's a general idea, here's a feeling, here's a vibe, and ideally a large audience gets it. And so The Great Escape and Check Yes Juliet kind of hold up because they weren't so specific. And so over time, those lyrics do not become more like kind of cringe or kind of shitty. It's like, no, they kind of hold up. I would say Boys Like Girls, Great Escape, and Check Yes Juliet kind of hold up lyrically.
They do. And other Boys Like Girl singles too, Love Drunk also holds up comparatively.
It does. A lot of Boys Like Girls holds up.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the pop punk community, but they can simultaneously be the most annoying music listeners that love arguing about the semantics of what's actually emo or, that's pop punk, that's pop rock. And this is punk, not pop punk. And there's also that's pop punk.
She's saying everything that I wish I could say to every single comment on our fucking TikTok. Those bands aren't emo. Okay.
The one thing that I've been seeing a lot more recently that's been kind of annoying is a lot of like smaller bands are posting obviously on TikTok to get views and to like get their music out there. I've been seeing some where it's, 3, 4, 5-piece band. They're all playing different instruments. They don't have like a computer running in the background. They're like, this is what real music is like. None of that computer. I'm like, are we really back here again?
My entire thesis of really everything is that every permutation has to exist in order to validate the permutations of the opposite side. There has to be a band that's like, no, we fucking hate all this computer music. Why would you have a computer on stage? Why do you need that? And then I'm like, I'll have fucking 5 computers on stage. I don't give a shit, man. The experience of hearing and seeing music live is the experience of hearing and seeing music live. And it doesn't change whether it's like partially on a computer, entirely on a computer, not on a computer at all. It's all the same. But if you're just choosing that path, you kind of got to choose that path and then let everybody else know you're choosing that fucking path. It's just an annoying thing about being a fucking musician. You got to talk shit about the people on the other side, and the people on the other side got to talk shit about you. It's just kind of how all this shit has to exist. Everything has to exist in the world.
And don't you act like My Chemical Romance wouldn't have been singing Heaven Was Full, I'm Going Straight to Hell. That sounds like something they would write. But cringe.
That has to be somewhere in there. Let's be for real.
Heaven Help Us now is kind of close.
Yeah.
I really want to fight on that point she just made, and I can't. And God damn it.
Music promotion just doesn't belong with pop punk. It doesn't belong anywhere.
I think the skits are lame, but I think that, you got to be honest, like TX2 is making a good name for himself by doing a bunch of cringe shit that a lot of children like. It's working to create an audience that he wants. It's working. I'm not saying that it's like high art. The arbiter of what is good and what is bad is not necessarily like whether it's good art or not. It's about how many people are seeing it, how many people like it, how good TX2 is doing, how many tickets he can sell to a show. Like there's way more things that we can use as metrics as to whether or not TX2 is good than whether or not we like the song or not. There's clearly people who like it. I think we just got to accept it. Like the skits are working. The cringe is working for him. Good for him. It's not something I would create. It's not something that I would listen to. It's not for me, but certainly he is utilizing that cringe to maximize his audience.
It's of the times is basically what it is. Because
the times of 2024 is cringe as fuck.
Yeah. We have to embrace cringe. Cringe is dead at the same time. The way that we were marketed to when we were younger was also very different. So this is just the new way.
It was like, this band is the coolest band you can ever see. You'll never see a band cooler than The Used. You'll never see a band cooler than My Chemical Romance. These are the coolest bands. And that was why when bands like the Wonder Years and more bands in like that, like right after that big emo wave came out, it was like, no, we're just regular people and we make sad songs because we are sad. And it went a totally different direction. Like, no, we're not cool, actually. Like, we're very not cool. We are like normal, regular loser people. And it went this other direction. And now it's like kids trying to say we're losers, but that makes us cool. And it's like, not like this, it doesn't. not in this, it doesn't.
It's come full circle. I mean, that's why maybe when the Wonder Years and other bands like that didn't really hit a lot of us, is because we were like, no, we want to be those cool people.
I want to be
there.
cool.
I don't want to be the cool loser. Nowadays, it's like, I'm 29, I don't care. But but now we also have a new phase of kids who are like, I don't care. I'm a loser, but I'm a cool loser.
I'm a cool loser. Yeah.
With fashion sense, maybe.
Maybe,
Debatable.
and maybe like My Chem thought they were cool losers. Like it's very possible. But I think when we as an audience were looking at them, we're like, nah, dude, My Chemical Romance is doing really cool stuff. They look awesome on stage. They are fun. Like Frank Iero is thrashing around. He's the coolest guy I've ever seen. He's got the, like during the Three Cheers era where he had the X's on his eyes. I'm like, that's just cool. That is just the coolest dude I've ever seen. Like there is no question that like they were marketing as were just awesome.
Oh yeah.
So I believe in the coolness and not being like, I'm a cool loser. It's like, nope, you're not a loser anymore. You're cool as shit. You're just fucking rad and I like you. That is all about Frank Iero and not TX2. TX2 is not for me. I'm just going to keep saying it. I'm not against TX2. Just don't care for him as a personal thing.
Write about hating your dad or how much you hate this town over and over again.
hate this
Play the song, yeah.
Let's leave this town.
You got to stop putting it all next to each other. It hurts. It's physically painful when you put every example next to one another. Also, thank you, Gabby, for doing the work of putting it all next to each other.
You know that there's so many more nowadays with
Yeah.
all like the different, like the fifth waves of emo plus post emo now. How
Yes.
many more kids still hate their town and want to leave it?
And I'm going to be real. That is something that is so identifiable for so many people that I'm not even going to shade like and how many people have used that lyric. Like when you're from a small town or you're from a shitty town, it's like, I want to get out and I'm going to make a band and I'm going to get out of this town. It's like everyone thinks that and feels that. So I'm not shading that at all. But yeah, put them all next to each other. Uh-oh.
TikToks and recoiling a little is part of why people aren't really connecting with new emo as much.
Hey, I'm editing here, and the guy that we're talking about actually did just post a response video to the cringe allegations.
Do you want to know why I am so cringe? Or why people call me cringe? It's because I had to be, and here's what I mean. None of you would have listened or cared about another emo rock artist unless they were cringe. You see, none of my family was in the music industry, so I didn't have my easy in, and I came from a small town with no industry connections. So the only way I could ever join the music industry was blowing up organically through this app. Which means I had to kill my ego and stop trying to be cool and make videos that I knew would piss off all the goth gatekeepers and make videos go viral.
There's no question that
Okay. All right. I have not seen that video. Also, number one, never apologize for being cringe. It is a constant lean in. You're doing like a Michael Jackson, just constant lean until you eventually just are like bent completely over.
Until you just flatline. You're like,
Yeah. But you never lean out. You always lean in. If you're going to be cringe, commit to the bit.
never lean back.
And he's leaning back. He's fat joeing it. Second, that is like saying that the only way that any artist breaks is by being cringe on TikTok. And that is just objectively not true.
I feel like nowadays, if you are trying to do a specific type of genre of music or you're trying to find a really like sped up easy in, yeah, that would be the way, because we've seen it happen with a lot of different artists. I think nowadays, because it's such a saturated market, you have to think about like what makes you stand out. It's the same thing with like even outside of TikTok. And we're looking at maybe smaller bands that are not necessarily in the TikTok game yet or ever. They have to find that one thing that makes them stand out amongst, you know, hundreds, thousands emo pop punk bands. I mean, as somebody who works in radio, every time that I get any type of music submissions, which is a lot, and are like, oh, check out this band, put this band on the radio, blah, 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 whatever it is, I can listen to 5, 10, 50 seconds of it and be like, this sounds like every other band. I don't care, move on. What's what's getting me in.
Yep.
Like, so you have to think about it in that way.
Always in marketing, it was you need a story. You need like a reason that people like your band. I would argue, you know, a band I love, Hot Mulligan, a band we've talked about a lot, Hot Mulligan. They do funny stuff. They are humorous. They are goofy. But also, I'm going to say this, whether I'm a huge fan of their music or not, they are cool. They're cool. They perform really well. They are clearly like of their element. They are cool. And even when they do funny shit, you're like, oh my God, I want to hang out with these guys. I think what TX2 does is like, wow, that was not really funny. It was just kind of cringe. I don't really know if I ever want to hang out with this guy. Like, we had to start the conversation about it saying, no, he does seem like a really nice and authentic and genuine person, which I still believe, but we have to kind of give that caveat. Whereas like very likely Hot Mulligan is just really nice people and they just want to make music and be cool. I mean, I don't know what they would say about that, but certainly like when you see them live or you see them doing something, you're like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Or, oh my God, that's funny. But like, you know that you're a fan because you like what they're doing versus like no one would ever pay attention if your story wasn't cringe. It's like, it's just not objectively true that you can't make it without being cringe. It's like you can be other stuff. Cringe is one of the choices you can make, but you don't have to be cringe.
You literally it's like that one meme where it's like two forks in the road and like one is like really
there are
dark.
two wolves inside of me. It's like two paths. Which way, emo kid?
I'm not really a big fan of gatekeeping, so whether I like his music or not, I'm not going to be so angry at him doing this. But this is a good place to transition to what I do want to talk about, and that's the people who do have the industry connections, like you mentioned.
Okay. I like this conversation. Let's just keep going. I don't have any issues with TX2. I think TX2 is fine. I just don't like his music. I'll end it there.
Okay.
Also, I don't think industry plants are objectively bad. Let's continue.
Emo, punk, grunge, the alt scene has always been industry backed. It was just a time where you had to be signed by a label in order to get seen.
I think, for example, the amount of power that Pete Wentz got over Decadence Records,
Yeah.
DCD2, essentially made a bunch of industry plants. Like Panic at the Disco, Gym Class Heroes, Academy Is, like all these bands that got picked up because Pete Wentz was friends with them or liked them or whatever it was, that then made it into the stars that they are. Is like, would that not be considered an industry plant?
I feel like an industry plant would be something that's more manufactured specifically to make a profit. It wouldn't necessarily be a band that already existed that you're friends with. I
Sure.
would say that's pretty much just like almost Nepo baby status.
So then you're just making something that looks within the constraints of what you're trying to create. Like these are essentially pop stars that they're finding and they just happen to be making emo music versus like, I found a pop star and I made them make, they're the next Lady Gaga, they're the next Britney Spears, they're the next thing like this. The genre is the reason people are mad.
Yeah.
Versus like whether or not they were picked up by, like we expected of pop stars, we expected of these major high level artists, but we don't expect it in our rock music.
Right.
How dare you?
But the ironic thing is that one of the arguably biggest and most quote unquote like relatable and often cite punk band of all time, Sex Pistols, was an industry plant created band. So if we were to even argue nowadays, it was never around in our scene, it's been around. It's just now we have so much more internet access, resource access, word of mouth access to see and decipher who those people are. So in this video, they put up Games We Play, MN. So he is somebody who was just playing music and then Pete Wentz just happened to kind of like find his music, said, I like that shit. Let me sign this kid. Because Pete Wentz has a lot of power and we just keep giving him power and authority to do things because he's a part of Fall Out Boy and Pete Wentz.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing with if you follow Daisy Grenade on TikTok, they're super good also. They always post like, we're not industry plants. We're just playing music. And then we got signed by Pete Wentz's record label. They're like, I work in a retail store. I'm doing all these. I'm hustling. I'm trying to make ends meet. I'm just like you. I'm not an industry plant. Because they're trying to combat a lot of hate, especially they're two women, which is also, you know, you have a lot more unfortunate stigma towards them.
More women are considered industry plants than men, for sure.
But I think that's something to keep in mind is that industry plant and being lucky and also just like knowing a person who knows a person are completely separate things entirely.
I do think it sucks that most artists have to grow or blow up or get the access and get the resources in order to be a larger artist or get heard by more people through someone who already has them. I do think that sucks. I wish there was more resources allocated to people who were in up and coming bands, especially in cities that are not LA, are not New York, are not Tennessee, are not places where like there are major music hubs where there is a lot of money and a lot of resources already ready for those. I wish even here in Chicago, we didn't have to move to fucking Nashville if we wanted to make country. Didn't have to move to LA if we wanted to make rock music. But it's like those resources exist where they are and not necessarily where someone else is. So I do think like there's plenty of artists that are coming from small towns creating music that they love that are just trying to use the internet to the best of their ability to make something that they want to make. I don't think we have to throw industry plant around as much as we do. But also, yeah, you kind of got to meet Pete Wentz at some point and be like, hello. Maybe Pete Wentz should stop making as many music video ideas and start making more bands get signed. He's got a good ear for bands. I'll be there. I'd be happy to be in the room with you when you're coming up with music video ideas to just sort of pull back on some of them. Just pull them back. Just pull it back. Just pull it back. Cooking too much.
Already on social media as an indie artist before blowing up. That's just how it works now. And it doesn't make it any less annoying when an artist is marketed as independent or solo only to find out they're not. They were just better at marketing the garage band type look back then.
Yeah, that's true about Paramore, unfortunately. But you can start as one thing and become something else. The music industry is fucked. The music industry is a money-making machine. It's a capitalist endeavor, and we just have to all live within this capitalist society and economic system in order to create the art we want to create. Paramore still made bangers. Doesn't fucking matter.
They were locked into what, like a
20
year contract from the start that they just finished out. Paramore is absolved of this because
absolved. Haley's absolved.
Haley's absolved. The entire band.
Thank God for Paramore. God bless Paramore. Salute.
Internet was sparse. They were always industry plants. That's what labels do. And labels always go to where the people are. Back then it was the radio, then it was YouTube, and now it's TikTok. Authenticity should be their #1 priority, and clearly they've been missing the mark completely. Unfortunately, a lot of these TikTok industry plants happened to be emo artists like Tramp Stamp, Scale, Games We Play, people who already had industry connections, some of which even had solo careers of their own already, making decent pop music, but clearly don't know anything about emo music through their lyrics and inability to name any mega popular emo song from the last 20 years. Like, why did they choose not to mention how embarrassing.
Why would you post that?
Like, why would you think that'd be okay? Even if you are trying to be attention getting, at a certain point, people are gonna be like, hey, you're not beating the industry plant allegations.
They've done a bunch of interviews since this and obviously are not as popular to call out anymore, but I don't know. I guess I don't really care that much about Tramp Stamps in the end, but I do think you shouldn't post videos where you don't know any of the songs. Like, you don't have to post that video. Just don't be like, oh shit, I didn't know any of the songs. Don't post it.
Pop punk in the 2020s is like barely a decade old, and trying to market it to a generation of people who largely already grew up hearing it, which makes people feel like it's played out. If you're trying to do that, you have to do something a little bit differently, even if it's just in the writing of the song. And when that's the case, the new stuff trying hard to be the old stuff becomes boring. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and be the most original person on earth to create good music. But when you've heard the same song 100 times, it starts to become not very interesting to listen to.
This is the thing that bothers me the most about music on TikTok is that it is just like there is no originality in it because it is music that is written specifically for TikTok. There is no room for someone to do something different because it will not get attention on TikTok unless you're being cringe as fuck. There's just so much music that is of the same emo genre that is going around on it. And so when an industry plant comes out or it's whatever this stuff is, that you're just creating the same thing that the last guy did or very similar or similar theme, similar vibe. And so the music just isn't that interesting. And that's why, like, really when we're measuring the success of these artists, it's like, where do you go from your music getting really popular on TikTok? Can you sell tickets? Can you get people interested in going to your shows? Are you good live? Can you replay? Because that's a major piece of the emo and pop punk and punk genre is being able to play it live. And if you can't do that, no one buys tickets, your band flounders.
Yeah, it turns out there's like good and bad artists in every genre.
Who knew? I'm smart and this is my video.
Because this has all happened before. Like
I was going to say again, big fan of Gabby. Gabby's doing great work.
Disney, one of the biggest media companies in the world, saw it was a profitable genre in the mid-2000s and produced albums like Get Back with Demi Lovato. La La Land and Get Back still absolutely bang.
Yeah. Hello. It's the same Jonas Brothers thing.
Lee Cyrus and Hannah Montana songs, the Jonas Brothers. That was just the popular genre back then.
I don't think that you need validation for this point. I think that it's very clear.
I feel like it still get fought way
There's
too
a
much
movie called
about
Camp
it.
Rock.
And Camp Rock too.
Even Rage Against the Machine was signed to Epic Records from
True.
Sony Music. Like, come on. Which brings me to think that the whole industry plant argument is like kind of stupid.
Every band that you hear is signed to a label or has some way of getting there. There is no way that they market themselves without a budget to market themselves. If you really care about the authenticity of a band, you see them in basements and that's it. And those bands, if they get too big, you're like, never mind. I don't care about them. I'm only seeing them in basements. So you can just let it go. It doesn't really matter. It's not worth the effort of caring that much about whether a band is big or not. It's too parasocial. Just listen to the music and enjoy it or don't.
If you follow a band and you love their music, you love what they're messaging, whatever it may be, don't you want them to make money from doing their passion?
No, that means that they're not authentic anymore. I know. I
Wow,
don't mean that.
Look at Hot Mulligan. I saw them in a room filled with 20 people, and now they're playing arenas opening for Fall Out Boy.
And Lizzie watched them and said, I hope they never make it. I hope that they are always here playing to 20 people. No one wants that.
No, absolutely
No one wants that
not.
for somebody they love. They want more people to know it. They just don't want too many people to know it.
Yeah, I would tell everybody about Hot Mulligan.
Yeah. Me.
So we have MGK going from rap to Tickets to My Downfall in 2020. A big introduction and new sound for him in pop punk and departure from his rap career that was pretty well received by a lot of people. And pretty awfully received by a lot of people. The hit single My Ex's Best Friend blended pop production with trap hi-hats with some distorted guitar. However, the rest of the album was significantly more pop punk inspired rather than trap pop with guitar in it. Learning that the Travis Barker was a huge and main collaborator on this album and project brought me in with interest. I went in 2020 not knowing anything about these other people, going in with an open mind. I didn't think the album was half bad.
Is it me or is Tickets to My Downfall not a very bad album?
I mean, I remember when it came out in multiple group chats and in our friend groups, we were like, is it bad that we really like this album?
Every song we heard that he did, because he did I Think I'm Okay before this, off his previous record with Youngblood and Travis Barker.
Mm-hmm.
And that song was fire. Liking the record is okay.
It's a solid album. I will still say it. It's a very good album.
Yeah. If you don't want to call it pop punk, fine. It's a new version of something that people were doing, and it widened the audience that liked pop punk, and it widened the amount of people who got interested in other bands. That's unfucking deniable that other bands blew up because of what MGK did for a younger audience to get interested in the genre. If you don't want to call it pop punk, I don't care.
You can just call it emo rap poppy punk.
Yeah, call it the MGK effect, whatever you want to call it. But it was good.
MGK was already an artist with mixed reception, and changing genres from rap to pop punk gave a lot of people the impression that he was a poser. And since he was the biggest face of bringing back the genre in the mainstream, he made the whole scene cringe by doing things like making weird comments about Kendall Jenner turning 18.
If Kendall Jenner is in your bedroom naked and you're 50, you're going.
He looks the most Ohio in this clip, by the way.
It's a very Ohio thing for him to say.
Yep.
And as someone who's listened to emo her whole life, I felt like he actually liked what he was making, unlike some people. And to have Travis Barker as the main collaborator on this album, the drummer of Blink-182, one of the most famous and talented drummers of my lifetime, the album had a lot of Blink influences, because why wouldn't it?
Best Blink-182 album for a few years. Call him a poser all you want. He had a fucking record that doesn't sound bad, and he was majorly popular because of it. Maybe some of y'all should try being a poser once in a while if you want to sell some records or get people that care about your band. Okay.
Listen, if you're a poser, maybe you might land on Megan Fox.
Yeah. He's such a poser. I don't see you on the arm of a Megan Fox. Maybe you do a little bit of posing.
Travis Barker was behind this entire brigade of emo coming back, either signing, working with, or producing tons of TikTok talent like Lil Huddy, Jaden, his son Landon Barker, Maggie Lindemann, and of course non-TikTok talent, I guess, like MGK, Mod Sun. Not long after, he signed Avril
Put Kenny Hoopla and Nothing Nowhere in there, please.
Kenneth? Put my boy Kenneth in.
Put my boy Kenny and Nothing Nowhere in there.
Levine, who's been out of the limelight for quite some time, and brought her into this circle. Then she started dating Mod Sun, MGK's friend who used to do reggae rap but transitioned into pop punk.
No way.
Then they got engaged.
No way.
And then they got unengaged.
Oh my god.
Another big player in this new wave is industry veteran John Feldman. Ska punk fans,
Your homie. I can't wait till
This
one
is
day.
all going to have to get deleted, too. This is all going to have to get deleted.
I want one day for you to meet John Feldman.
I don't think we can.
know him from Goldfinger. He's helped produce albums for an insane roster, like Good Charlotte, All Time Low, some Blink albums, Sleeping with Sirens.
Don't.
That's a good Hillary Duff album.
He's done so many records that have been so integral to my fucking life that I am so upset about. And I'm like, God damn it, we have to meet.
Like I said before, but now with more context, it just doesn't feel authentic when the music doesn't match the lifestyle. Which is ironic because the industry was always driven by an industry. We just didn't have the extent of the internet we have today to see the marketing so clearly and widely. Though there's always been fans in the scene angry at bands for selling out. God forbid the band I like finally has the money and backing to get their music out there.
There you go.
There it goes.
There you go. That's the whole point.
It's like they're trying to capture the same magic from back then, but part of the magic was that it was fresh and exciting. It's like, I've already heard someone do this same thing, and I liked the original one better.
I do think the best of the artists in this sort of resurgence and the music that they're making that is supposed to be kind of based on that are the ones who are not trying to copy, but they are trying to innovate on it. But I do think that includes MGK.
Yeah.
And I do think that includes a lot of the artists. I just think that the sound that they created, like the more like synthesized trap beat, emo hip hop, emo rap, emo pop punk, whatever. I do think most of them are innovating on that sound. They're just like are taking this new sound that was already innovated on it and creating stuff from that. There's a Tyler the Creator quote that I always like come back to is like, he was really excited when white kids got GarageBand and started making hip hop on it because these are like suburban teenage kids who grew up on listening to hip hop and are obviously not involved in hip hop at all, have no concept of hip hop, but are listening to it and then they want to create it themselves. And I would say, as most people would say, that white kids creating a black art form and taking it and saying, I'm going to make this is overall not going to be based in the original influence of hip hop. Obviously, what they were creating was a new type of sound because they could never recreate the original sound of hip hop. So when they did create their sound, Tyler the Creator listened to that and said, whoa, this is somebody who doesn't understand how to make the sound that all of my contemporaries know how to make. That's interesting to me because they suck at it. So I want to follow what they're doing that they suck at, and I want to make something from that. And I want to learn from them taking this art form that they suck at doing. Everyone in emo pop punk that is doing it now just took that and said, I'm going to do it like that.
The thing is, they just want to replicate. They don't want to innovate. That's it.
Yes. A lot of them don't. Some of them want to take this new sound that was innovated from it.
It's not all bad. There are now countless alternative bands out there that don't get enough recognition that are doing the genre best, or are experimenting with really cool genre fusion that gets me excited. Scene Queen is insane.
Shout out Scene Queen.
I love Scene Queen.
Music be changing, and I think we should accept that and not try so hard to gatekeep genres of music. Get a new hobby.
Shout out Gabby, Gabby Bell on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, follow on all the socials, all the stuff. We will link it below. I think this was a very interesting look at it where it's just sort of explaining to a bunch of the children that are out there on the internet, like, hey, you don't know anything about this. Like this is the same thing that happened before, just on TikTok now.
It's just like everybody said time and time again, we just have more accessibility and like research available to be able to debunk things quickly and to just be able to get our hands on it a lot sooner.
Be cringe. Do whatever you want on the internet.
Yeah.
It's the internet. You have your fun. I hope everybody has the success that they want, and I don't have any ill will towards anybody, even if the music is not for me. That's just
It is
the
what it
nature
is.
of music. Yeah. We are the Emo Social Club. We have a lot of other videos on our channel where we talk about this. We are also doing reviews of all the albums from when we were young, all the records from 20 years ago that all these bands are trying to replicate and create the sound now of. I don't know if they're doing Newfound Glory justice or not, but
We'll
it exists. Make sure to subscribe. We would love to have you back for more of these React videos. We also have a second channel called the Emo Social Club Podcast where we do all of our interview content. Some of these go up as podcasts, but that's our main channel for all of our new interviews with some of your bands that you love, some of the bands that you don't know yet and you should learn about because they're great. So make sure to subscribe and follow all those. And we love you. And Gabby Bell and all the bands on TikTok. Great job. Keep it up.